I have Bert the frog, the Build-A-Bear frog with me today. He's gonna help me get through this video. So today I thought I would share with you kind of my life story. I'm trying my very best to convince my doctors that I'm autistic. And that's incredibly difficult, especially if you're one, an adult, two, a female, assigned female at birth, and three, if you have spent a lot of time masking and trying to fit in with other people, because then you just automatically do that, and then they don't see the characteristics in you as much, and so you have to convince them of your entire experience, which is a really weird thing to do. To try to tell the doctor, hey, this is real, I'm real, listen to me. So I've written up my condensed life story. I even titled it, Convincing You I'm Autistic. I will be giving this to my doctor, which might be annoying, but sometimes you just have to advocate for yourself, because no one else has to live your life but you. I have to live my life. This is the only life I'm gonna have. So, I thought I would share with you some of the stuff that, I have gone through, and stuff that I always thought was just quirky or weird, or there was some reason why I couldn't handle things. And I just thought I was crazy most of my life. I felt like there was something seriously wrong with me because I couldn't do what the other kids were doing. I didn't want to do what the other kids were doing. There was always such a disconnect for me. And to actually put a word to it, and to actually, I've done so much research on autism, and I have watched so many autistic creators, YouTube creators, TikTok even, and it's the only time that I felt like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's something that I always thought was just a weird thing that I did, or just a weird way that I was, and it's actually not. There's actually a reason for it. That's just the way my brain's wired. And so I am not clinically diagnosed. This is just, I'm trying to get a diagnosis is what I'm doing, which is virtually impossible and very frustrating. But I wanted to share with you some of the stuff that happened. So we're going to go back to when I was born. So I was born about a month and a half premature. I was in the hospital for 10 days in a little incubator. And I went home virtually. Physically, I was fine. My mom was told that I would be behind physically and emotionally. Physically, I was not behind. I was off the charts. But emotionally, socially, and stuff like that, I was. And so my mom tried really hard with me, because she really wanted to make sure that I wasn't behind in school. She wanted to make sure that I was smart, and that, I was given every opportunity that I could possibly have. And so I was actually in preschool at age 3 because I had severe separation anxiety. Severe, from my mom. I didn't even like my dad till I was about 3. And so I went to preschool early. I was in preschool for 2 years. And God bless my preschool teacher, Miss Leslie. If something was different, throughout the day, whether it be like a guest speaker, that's a big thing, or even if it was just like recess is gonna be 15 minutes later, or anything like that, she would always pull me aside and tell me, because she knew that I would be crying and having a meltdown if she didn't tell me. I also remember my second year of preschool when it started up, and there were new children, because I was in preschool for 2 years. There were new kids coming in, and oh my gosh, I was stressed. And so she pulled me aside. She said, there are going to be different kids, and yeah, God bless her. And when I was a baby, my mom would try to take me to Walmart or somewhere just to try and get me out, and anytime a stranger would approach me, I would throw up on my mother. Which I feel really bad about now, but apparently that happened on more than one occasion, and it just made my mom not want to take me anywhere. But she never gave up on me. I always had to go places, and she pushed me to do things, which in retrospect, I think was really good for me, because otherwise I would have stayed in my little shell. I was very shy in elementary school, up until about 4th grade. So I always had about one friend. I would always have like one best friend, and that was about it. And then in 4th grade, I had a group of friends, and that was sort of the beginning of what I think was sort of masking and trying to fit in and realizing, oh, this is better, you know, people like me, and I always felt like it was okay as long as people liked me. Which is a strange mindset to have. I still feel that way. As long as everybody likes me, then everything is fine, and there's no conflict, and everything's great. I don't know why, I just always kind of felt that way. Something else that I think is important to mention, I was always just kind of a watcher. My mom always encouraged me to make friends, but I would often, and I mean up through, I just always would sit on a bench and watch the other children play, which in retrospect is hilarious to think about. My mom tells me that I would like laugh and point at the other children and act like I was watching a television show, basically, like they were my entertainment. And she would always come over and say, why don't you go play with them? And I'd get so annoyed. I'd get like angry and frustrated because I was having fun watching. I didn't want to go play with them. I didn't, you know, I don't know. I just always was okay watching, and I was always okay with being around people who weren't my age. I loved talking to adults, and I loved talking to older people. I much preferred their company, but, you know, as you get older, especially in like middle school, you realize, okay, I'm gonna have to either be shy and be in the background and be tormented, or I'm gonna have to put on a good face, and I'm gonna have to get people to like me. And that's kind of exactly what I did. In 7th grade, I was a cheerleader, so I got in with the popular girls. And it worked. Everybody liked me. I was friendly to everyone. I learned that, you know, friendships are hard. Trying to keep one friendship, let alone several, is really difficult. And so I learned in middle school that you can just be friendly to everyone. If you talk to everyone, if you're friendly to everyone, everyone will like you, but you don't necessarily have to maintain a friendship with everyone. And so I always had a few friends, like a friend group, and that was actually really big for me. And I understood that friends were necessary and that friends were good, but it didn't come naturally to me to want to gravitate towards people my own age, ever. And I never understood why. I just knew that I liked the company of adults, and I liked just sitting on a bench and watching the other children play. That happened a lot. That happened, I remember one instance, I was at a friend's house, and all these kids were outside playing basketball in the rain. Which sounds terrible. I don't know why they were doing that and why I would want to do that, but apparently that was like a fun thing. Anyways, I was sitting under the carport with the adults, and I was probably 9, maybe 10 years old, and I remember my mom got frustrated because she was like, why are you not playing with the other children? Because I was always like that. And I was like, I don't want to play in the rain. Why would I want to play in the rain? I don't want to play basketball not in the rain. Why would I want to do that? And so I imagine she was very frustrated with me a lot of the time because she just wanted me to fit in, and she just wanted me to be liked, and she wanted me to be successful, and she wanted me to do everything that I could to have every opportunity. And it was hard for me to just try and be a person. You know, the eye contact thing is so interesting because I spent my whole life trying to learn how other people interact and trying to watch people, and I learned to make eye contact with people. And so anytime that was brought up, sort of the idea of autism, I thought, no, I make eye contact with people. And that is the most ridiculous thing that some people think, well, if you can make eye contact, you're not autistic. That's incorrect. That's a myth. I can make eye contact, but that doesn't mean I enjoy it. eye contact is very intimate and strange, and especially if you're talking to someone really close up. It feels like they're looking into your soul, and it feels like they know everything that you're thinking. And so typically, if I'm talking to someone or they're talking to me and they're looking at me, there's a really good chance I'm not hearing what they're saying. Especially, if it's like a close family member, it's going to be easier than a stranger. Because I can't hear what they're saying and focus on eye contact at the same time. Because I'm only focusing on how long I need to be looking at them and when I need to look away. Because I want them to feel like I'm paying attention, even though I may not be. And it's not that I don't want to pay attention, it's that I actually can't. Oh, and it's the weirdest thing. Actually, even if it's just like a coworker, if I'm looking at them too long and we're talking, I can actually start to get dizzy. Which is such a weird thing, but I don't know. I don't know what I always thought that was. There were so many things about myself I just brushed off as, well, I'm crazy, or, I brushed off so many things, and I really shouldn't have, but, something that I realized, you can rationalize anything. Anything at all. Anything that you think is different about yourself that you don't want to deal with, you can just rationalize it, and forget about it for a while, but it always comes back around. When I was in middle school, I already mentioned, I was well liked, to the point where I was Valentine's Dance Queen, which, by the way, is a ridiculous popularity contest, and I hated everything about those things. But at the same time, it was validating because it meant that everybody liked me. And so I had a really weird relationship with stuff like that, and I was a cheerleader, I was one of the valedictorians in middle school, I was successful in that era. But again, it came at a cost. I was exhausted. And then I went to high school, and it kind of all went downhill. High school was an absolute nightmare for me. High school was just sensory overload. I mean, there's so many kids loaded and packed into this building. High school was a really terrible time for me. I hated everything about it, and I always thought that it was just me being weird. I would always say that, like, I'm just being weird. No, you're not being weird. You're actually having a meltdown right now. And my parents were really concerned, especially closer to the end of high school, junior and senior year. They were concerned because I would come home and I would just break. I mean, I would just be angry and irritable and crying and full meltdown. But then they would go to like a parent-teacher conference, and all the teachers would say how wonderful I was and what a joy I was. And so they were confused why I was so irritable and angry to be at home. I wasn't irritable and angry to be at home. I was finally in a safe space, and my guard was down, and I just would break every single day. Because, you put up such a front just to go to school. And I never understood how people could just go to school and then afterwards not be totally drained. They're gonna go to a football game afterwards, and they're gonna go to this party. It took everything in my being to graduate high school. I couldn't have done it without my parents. I wouldn't have. I don't know. It was really terrible, and I never understood why everyone else could handle it but me, because that's how it felt. Oh yeah, I actually, about a week after high school graduation, I actually developed shingles from just the intense stress that I had. And so I was basically bed and house ridden for about 4 or 5 weeks. And it sucked, but at the same time, it was honestly great to have an excuse to just be in bed for that long. And to just rest. I felt like I hadn't rested in so long. And I mean, I had shingles, so I was, sick and not great, and yet I somewhat enjoyed it, at least near the end where it wasn't as bad, because I got to just rest for the first time in a really long time. And then I went to college, and then I dropped out of college. I went to our local community college, so I just drove there. And I went for a year, and then I had a complete meltdown one day, and I dropped out. And then I didn't do anything for about 2 years. I didn't do anything. I just stayed at home and tried to get a job, and finally I got a job at the library, and it's been really good for me. But in the short and condensed version, that basically brings us to now, where I'm trying to convince my doctors that I'm autistic. I've taken the autism quotient test. That one, a score of 26 and up would be on the autism spectrum. That one I got a 38. It goes up to 50, I believe. The other one was the RADS test. The RADS test goes from 0 to 240, I think. The first time I took it, I got a 200. And I thought, that's so dramatic, Hope. There's no way your score is that high. I'm going to take it again. I took it a second time. I got a 199. So it's pretty much in that range. Anything over 65 is considered on the autism spectrum. And it's just crazy that, and the first time I took it, thinking, oh, that's dramatic. We don't want to be dramatic. Take it again. We don't want to embellish. But I wasn't embellishing. I was just being honest. And again, it's crazy what you can try to tell yourself, but I don't know. If anyone else out there has experienced these things or has felt this way, please let me know. And, you're not alone and you're not crazy. I thought I was crazy for so long. And now I know that I'm not. I know that I just need for a doctor to listen to me and get me an assessment and hopefully a diagnosis. And a diagnosis is really important to me because once you have it for life. A lot of the times with mental health doctors, you have to start over. If you get a new doctor, you're starting over if you don't already have a diagnosis of something. They have no baseline. And so you start with a new doctor, a new therapist, and they, go through all these questions just to tell you that you have anxiety. And I know that. But anxiety is an offshoot of this other thing. Thank you so much for listening. I just really needed to get some of that off my chest, and I hope that if anything, this can make somebody feel a little less alone today. Thanks for stopping by. Bert thanks you. Bye, guys.